Hello, and welcome to the Grapefully Yours Wine Podcast. I am Jim Campanini, co-host of the show with my dear friend and the wine butler, Mike Pigeon. We're coming to you this morning on beautiful, sunny downtown Lowell from the studios of InsideLowell.com. Boy, Teddy Panos has done a nice job with this place, hasn't he?
Great. I don't know who his interior decorator is, but she or he has done a fine job.
Well, he's even got a refrigerator in the back to keep our white wines and everything.
Oh.
Nice, you know?
Always party time up here at 100 Merrimack.
No, it's great. So everything been okay with you lately?
Very well. Yeah. Got a little show today on our Bordeaux wines, which I've always liked. I don't think I've really ever had a bad Bordeaux.
Yeah, we've been hitting the spectrum. It's about time. I think we talk a little bit about the Bordeaux wines. But first, I want to say that I received a couple of email comments. You can comment on InsideLowell.com. If you go to our podcast, underneath you could email us any questions you have about wine. And more people seem to be interested in Mike Pigeon's fashion statement instead of the wines. But that's okay. We'll get to it. But they say, gee, Jim, Mike's got such a nice hat on. Why don't you wear a hat? So I said, I got a special hat on today.
Mickey Ward, you can't get better than Mickey Ward.
Well, I would because the Golden Gloves boxing tournament is back, right? At the auditorium, big event, been revived the last couple of years. They had a big crowd last week, and it's also a sign of spring is coming.
Very soon.
They start the Golden Gloves all those years. I worked at the Sun. I used to love going there, having a beer, putting a plastic gown over my head and sitting in the front row, But no, it was great. And Mickey Ward, one of the best champions of all time. He's still a great friend, a great son of Lowell. And he goes to the fights. He's there. And of course, if you haven't seen the movie The Fighter, right, with Christian Bale and Amy Adams, you got to see it. It was a great movie. So yes, Mike, we're going to talk about Bordeaux. What do you know about Bordeaux?
Well, I know where it comes from. My favorite Bordeaux's, I like it's a blend. It's not made of one grape, and usually the Bordeaux's, I like them from Pomerol Saint Emilion because they put such a Merlot mix in it, 50%.
Yeah.
And then it's a smooth wine. The tannins are nice and soft on them, and it's a can't miss wine if you like the comfortable little bit of lush. Nice taste to it.
Very good. That was a great synopsis. You got a little ahead of yourself right there, and but very, very good. I mean, you do drink it. And that's the main thing is to appreciate it.
It's in France, but they also make Bordeaux style wines in this country.
Well, that's the key here. So Bordeaux set the standard as far back as when the Romans were occupied France and
1200.
Oh yes, even going back further than that, and so Bordeaux is in the southwest quadrant of France, about 360 miles south of Paris, and it's right on the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so it gives it a special climate, not a Mediterranean climate. That's different. Okay, so it does have variable weather there. It's a large region, the largest wine producing region in France. It's 63 miles from north to south, 78 miles wide, and it has over 211,000 vineyard acres, largest area in France and in Europe. Now just think of this. Prosecco just set a record in Italy. That comes from a zone in the Veneto region, north of Verona, and they just went over 300 million bottles to best champagne, which produces about 180, 200 million bottles. Bordeaux produces close to 700 million bottles of Bordeaux wine, strictly Bordeaux wine.
That's quite a
red
number.
and white. Yes, a year.
Wow.
Okay. But because Bordeaux has set the standard for wines, everybody wants them. and everybody considers them, very expensive. You hear Petros selling for $3,000 a bottle, Chateau Margaux, $1,500 and up, and a lot of these, you buy them in advance. Even before they even produced, it's like a stock
Futures.
market. That's right, futures, stock market for wines. But the thing is, as you learn, when I took my wine scholar program at French Wines, only 3% of those total 700 million bottles of wine are actually those Grand Cru, high dollar wines. There's a lot of Bordeaux wines, like that sell for under $30, $20, $25 a bottle, right? I mean, you've got one right here, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
I got that the other day. Haven't opened it yet, and not opening it here either until I get some good food to eat.
Well, so the point is, there are good Bordeaux wines out there. The question is, you should know where to look for them. It's like anything else. What is Napa Valley, Washington State wines, Willamette Valley for Pinot Noir. I remember my instructor Janet Ross telling me in the Wine Scholar program. So if you look at a map and you see a vineyard that's been there for 300, 400 years, and they're classified Grand Cru or First Premier Cru. She said, and then you got the guy across the street, Jim Campanini's vineyard. He lives right across the street from that sacred land, and his land looks just the same, but he's only been there for two centuries, but he doesn't have that high classification. You got to start thinking, gee, really, what's the difference? His one place is selling their wine for $200 a bottle. The other place is selling it for $50 a bottle. You're going to give that $50 bottle a shot, right?
Yeah, and it used to be, back in the 20 years ago, there was a big difference between a good Bordeaux and a very good Bordeaux. But now with the new winemaking techniques, they brought that bottom level right up. They're all good now.
Well, and that's another thing about Bordeaux. So Bordeaux, the classification system in France, strictly regulated. All Bordeaux wines have to go before a panel, okay? And there's 59 appellations. Each one of these appellations has a sort of control. So these wines can't vary from year to year. The tastes have to be consistent. And the winemaker and the producer has to keep that standard going, or else it has to be declassified and sold as bulk wine. So there is pressure on the winemaker to make good quality wine. And that's the standard that has been modeled in most of the world, and that most winemakers try to achieve. So Bordeaux, the Bordeaux region in France is largely responsible for that classification system that has set the excellent standards for other regions in the world have followed. And the ones that have, like the Italians, even in Spain, they have this, Portugal, and America, we're still pioneers. We basically do whatever we want, but we've come to, because of that same system, we've been able to excel in blending and doing other things that the French do. And a lot of investment now goes both ways. The French have invested, and the Italians here, because of the terroir, the mesoclimates in California and Oregon and Washington State and other places. So there is a lot of connection, So, but you are exactly right. Tell us again. The Bordeaux wine is a blend, right? Mostly.
Yeah. In on the east bank in Pomerol, Saint Emilion, it's 50% Merlot, which right away that much Merlot is going to give you a smooth wine, and then a little Cabernet, maybe a Petit Verdot.
Very, very good.
And, so it gives it every wine's Bordeaux a little bit different.
If someone were to ask you a trick question at the party, What is a Bordeaux wine? The answer is very simple. It's mostly a blended wine. Now, there are wines from Bordeaux, like you can get 100% Cabernet Franc. That's not a blend, but they're very, very minimal. But most of the red and white Bordeaux wines are blend. So the red grapes, as Mike said, there's only certain authorized grapes that can go into the red blend: Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Petit Verdot, a Malbec.
Sometimes a Malbec.
Yeah, which is called Cot, C-O-T in France, and then Cabernet Franc.
Yep.
Those are the five major grapes that they use in the blend. Now, for the white Bordeaux, we have
I think it's Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon.
Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, and there's another one. Famous French grape, native grape, Muscadel. Okay, so those are the three, and they use those for the you hear a Bordeaux Blanc, a Bordeaux White. That's what goes into it. Now, the interesting thing about these 59 appellations in Bordeaux, okay, you've got the overall Bordeaux appellation, the Bordeaux AOC, where basically everybody who's a winemaker in Bordeaux can put that on their bottle, that label. It's the broadest label. Wherever you make wine, you could put that on there, that this signifies this is an authorized wine. The other one is with the bottle I have here, Bordeaux Superior. Okay, so this appellation is actually stricter than the Bordeaux AOC. So with this one, the density of the vines have to be planted. It's got to be a lower density, so that gives that lowers the volume of grapes that are produced. Supposedly, well, it does. It makes them more concentrated. Also, it has to have a minimum. All wines to carry the Bordeaux Superior label have to have a minimum 11% alcohol, and plus another key fact of all Bordeaux wines. All the wines have to be fermented in oak and aged in oak. Okay? So the last part is very interesting because Bordeaux Superior wines have to be oaked before at least 9 months. Most of the Bordeaux Superior wines are oaked for at least 12 months. Okay, so there's a higher class of restriction on this. Now, the bottle that Mike has, the only difference, besides coming from one of the most impressive and famous villages, Saint-Emilion, okay, which is on the right bank, all right, is that this bottle can put the name of the famous village on the bottle. It doesn't have to. It could have just said Bordeaux Superior. But if you're a winemaker, producer from Saint-Emilion, you want everybody to know that this is from Saint-Emilion. And why? The terroir, the limestone soils, okay, which is world famous. Okay, so
and therefore the tannins would be softer too than on the West Bank.
Yes.
They make it soft like that.
And so you got a right bank and a left bank in Bordeaux, all right? And you've got the three rivers, the Gironde estuary, which comes in from the Atlantic. Then you got the Gironde River, the Dordogne further down, okay? And it separates the left bank from the right bank. And then you got the Entre de Mers, which is at the bottom, which is also a part of Bordeaux. And that's where they make the famous white wines, the Sauternes, from Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. So if you want, you should read up on it. I visited Bordeaux with my wife in 2017. Absolutely spectacular. It's one of the largest, well, it is the largest single wine growing zone in the world right now. Okay. And you see these beautiful, lush vineyards coming down to the banks of the river, gentle hills, flatlands on the left bank, gentle hills on that right bank where Chateau Margaux is, and the soils. You say to yourself, how can these wines taste, so differently being so close together? Well, you've got those limestone soils on the right bank, Saint-Emilion, Pauillac, and so that makes the wines, like Mike said, a little chalky, You know, the tannins are softer when they blend it. And then you've got the earthiness, the rustic style, you know, on the left bank. It is quite fascinating. And I brought these in today. Okay, these stones. Take one out. Just feel it. Can you see these stones? I'm going to put them on the desk here. I don't know if you can see them. Well, when we visited the famous Chateau Margaux, it was just amazing to me. You hear these stories and you study your classes, and they tell you about, you know, the instructor tells you, well, shows you picture of Margaux in the vineyards, and there's all these stony stones in the soil and rocks, and you say to yourself, how can these vineyards grow in these, you know, in these soils and stuff? And it's like when you go to Saint-Emilion, which we also visited, and you see the vines growing right out of these ledges of limestone. Well, it's true. I had to go into the vineyard and pick up these stones, and it was truly amazing. And what the stones do, it imparts those nutrients into the soil, and it gives them all those characteristics that are, yeah.
A stone is not always a stone. You could break those open and lick them with your tongue and taste it, and then go down across the river. The stones have the different taste. That's what works its way up into the vine and gives the grapes a different taste.
So it is really amazing when you do a deep dive into these Bordeaux wines in the region, just how interesting, and the great work Mother Nature does. Those vines go deep into the soil, grab the nutrients out, and the stones play a big part in it, you know. So Bordeaux is a blend. The winemakers on the right bank and left bank, they use the percentages of Cabernet and Merlot to fluctuate. There's usually more Merlot on the right bank,
yes,
right?
Correct. 50%.
They put a little, yes, on the right bank, and then slightly more Cabernet on the left bank. So you can choose. But the blending of those winemakers who've been doing it for, you know, it's generations. It's just a fantastic wine. But you should introduce yourself if you're not familiar with Bordeaux. Introduce yourself to some of these Bordeaux wines. I think you'd really, really like it, because as Mike said earlier, it set the standard for for blending. Set up even America to be so good at it. Where you know, if you have a Cabernet Sauvignon bottle, it's 100% Cabernet. Well, the French were the first ones to mix these wines and to create these complexities. And that's the best thing about Bordeaux wines. They're complex, they're fresh. You can smell the layers of spices and other attributes of it. So we're gonna taste these. We're gonna taste this wine. This is a Bordeaux Superior from Kirkland. Now the interesting thing is Kirkland, which is the signature wine for Costco. They buy the grapes, you know, they source the grapes right in Bordeaux. They have a winemaker right on site who makes these bottles. They when they do come into the Costco, they don't last long because they sell out. The reason is very simple: $7 a bottle for this Bordeaux Superior. Now, some people might sniff their nose at it compared to Chateau Margaux or something like that. And hey, that's fine. But it is a good Bordeaux wine. It's an easy drinking wine. Everyday drinking red. And it's a good one to test your chops on to see whether you like it. And we're going to try it. What do you think about drinking a $7 Bordeaux?
Well, you've had quite a few different Bordeaux's. I know you've tasted this a little before. What do you put it up there with the others? I took a little bit of it, and it's never going to be on the top 100 list of anybody. But this is a 2120 in the Bordeaux grapes in 2020. The vintage was considered very good. They've had some tough years in Bordeaux. 17, a lot of hail, bad weather. The crops were cut back and stuff. 18 was another tough year, but Bordeaux is coming back. Sam Messina at Wine Connection told us, hey, they're flying off the shelves now. But yeah, it's
Let's taste
Once
it.
I
Let's
hear
see.
the word Bordeaux or Burgundy, I figure, wow, this is an expensive wine. But as you said, not always so when you can get it for that. So I wouldn't expect that much.
Yeah, it lacks that hump.
Yeah, it does. I had a little taste of it earlier,
Yeah.
and for that price, I'd buy it. Of course, I would.
Yeah.
Who's going to buy a 50, 60, 70 and up bottle of Bordeaux all the time? You're drinking a Bordeaux, but are you really?
Okay, so there is it's a very simple wine. It's a table wine. Okay, and
Exactly.
nothing more.
Exactly.
All right.
Just like a good Italian wine might. They have a lower breed that's a table wine, and that's what this is.
Yes.
A table wine.
Yeah. So so looking at this and tasting it, this is a 2020. It's fresh, but it doesn't have that energy.
No.
It doesn't have that power. Because Bordeaux's are powerful wines. It's got the nice jammy dark cherry and blackberry flavors. A good Bordeaux. I imagine this wine. How much did you pay for this?
Mid 20s, I think
Yeah.
that was for that, and
Yeah.
I haven't tried that, but I want to do it with a nice food at home rather than
Yes.
but that's what that was. But I don't want to put this wine down because of the price.
No, I mean
But
in there.
it's, at Bordeaux, I want a little.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the Costco brand Pinot Noir from Burgundy, Bourgogne, and they're very, very good for the price. This is, I'd give it 85, 86 points if I had to. I mean, it's drinkable, but it's not going to really bowl you over. But it's a good start because if you taste this, then taste
think
then
you'd see
takes
the difference.
you'd see the big difference because a Bordeaux is meant to be a powerful, robust wine, but also elegant. Okay, so the tastes, the intensity, the concentrations of the fruit are almost mouth-watering. High alcohol, but medium acidity, make it good for food, but it's not going to burn your throat when it's going down.
If I were watching the show and I'm saying, something, I'm going to go out and try a Bordeaux, I wouldn't go with that one. I'd want to let myself know I was having a decent, good Bordeaux. And yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Okay, so the second sip, did you try a second sip?
Yeah.
Okay. The second sip is a little better than the first, probably because it's hitting the air, opening up just a little.
They opened it,
but it is what it is.
Yeah,
$7.
Exactly.
And this would go good with probably a hamburger, but it's
Again, there's nothing wrong with it. For the price, it's good. But if I was going to get a bottle of Bordeaux to try a Bordeaux, I'd force myself, if I had to go up to the price range another $20.
Yeah.
And then now I can make a judgment. Then I might want to go back to that or try that for the first time to see how much lesser it is.
Yes. So you should try a Bordeaux wine, a red wine. Go into your local liquor store and ask for their suggestions. Tell them you got a price range. Give them your price range. I mean, if they sell the bulk wines. Barefoot is one of them. It's the top selling wine in America. And their Pinot Grigio is like drinking water, but people buy it. This is a couple of notches above that. I mean, there is quality in this bottle, but it's not an exciting Bordeaux wine. But it'll get you through the meal. Let me tell you. But try it. So. And Mike, if you go to the Wine Connection and talk to Sam or Dave Messina, they just got in a slew of nice Bordeaux's, and I think they got a nice range from $20 to $45. And it'd be nice to even look at those bottles and read the labels and stuff like that. So
yeah, if you were going over someone's home for dinner, you wouldn't want to bring the lower price Bordeaux. I'd go for that.
Oh no, this is for your table wine, and stuff. But it's worth trying. I mean, it's dry,
Dry.
And that's why the wine goddess, my wife, she'll like this wine. You know,
It doesn't have that softness in the
yeah, it lacks that Bordeaux spark.
Yes.
You know,
Style.
so
Yeah.
so we'll have to come back with when you get ready to open up your bottle. We'll have to taste that. Okay, because I don't want to diminish the value of Bordeaux. All right. So, listen, we're going to wrap up, but we got some great shows coming up for you. Okay. I just want to tell you that the Daisy Zouzis is going to be on the show. We did a nice Valentine's Day show. That should be airing next week. We also had taped the show with my good friend Teddy Panos behind the camera with Scott Plath, the owner of Moonstones and Cobblestones and Stone Social or Social Stones and Stone Social, okay. And then we also have Danielle McFadden, the president of the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce. We taped a special show with her where she wore a white blouse to taste red wine. You'll have to watch to find out what happened. And then in March, we booked Mike Kunstler to come on, the owner of Four Oaks and Grazie. He's got some great wines on his wine list, including 2 by Drew Bledsoe's Winery from Washington State. So hopefully Mike will bring in one of those bottles, those premier bottles of Cabernet Sauvignon.
He does have a beautiful restaurant out there on the hill, doesn't he? It's beautiful,
yes. No.
beautiful.
He's done a good job. So we want you to tune in, take part, and have some fun, okay?
Salute.
Salute, Mike. May the wine be with you.